Well, the Sixers lose game one to the Knicks at the Garden, 137 to 98 points. And bro, I gotta say, I'm not worried after just game one. I'm not worried. It's not what I expected. It's definitely not what I expected. But I'm not worried moving throughout the rest of the series because we're not gonna see this version of the Knicks consistently throughout this series. We're just not. We're not gonna see this version of the Knicks consistently throughout this series. Like, bro, the Knicks shot 63% from the field, 51% from the three-point line. Brunson dropped 35 points. We're not seeing that output from the Knicks consistently throughout this series. We're not. Especially because of how good of a defensive team this Sixers team is and looks like right now in the playoffs. That's how I know. Because, bro, Maxey and BJ Edgecombe can lock up Brunson. Like, Kelly Oubre and PG can lock up Mikal Bridges. Kelly Oubre can lock up OG Anunoby. And even a hobbled Joel Embiid can lock up and stifle Karl Anthony Towns. 1000%. So, bro, I'm not worried because I know for a fact we are not going to see this output from the Knicks consistently throughout the series. And I know that for a fact because of how good of a defensive team, how versatile of a defensive team this Sixers team has looked like in the playoffs specifically. In the playoffs. And I didn't even mention Quentin Grimes coming off the bench. So I'm not worried about this Knicks series moving on to game two. I'm not worried. And honestly, bro, another reason why I'm not worried about this series after game one is because Maxey is never going to have as bad of a game as he had, as quiet of a game as he had at any other point during the series. He's never going to look this quiet and look this invisible as he did in game one. 13 points? Maxey was a borderline MVP candidate this season. He's not playing like that again throughout this series. Not under the bright lights of the Garden. Definitely not when we go back to Xfinity Mobile Arena in South Philly. Like, he's not going to play that. This man averaged 27 points per game against the Celtics. Jaylen Brown guarding him. Derek White guarding him. Like, there's no question he can cook Jalen Brunson. Like, what? Like, there's no question. If he can do what he did against the Celtics, which was a better overall perimeter defensive team, if he can do what he did to the Celtics, there's no question he can cook the Knicks. There's no question. If he can cook Jaylen Brown and Derek White, there's no question he can put Jalen Brunson in a body bag. There's no question. Bro, if CJ McCollum could do what he did to Jalen Brunson, what in the world do you think Tyrese Maxey is going to do to Jalen Brunson? That's cookies. That's lunch money. Like, Tyrese Maxey is going to have a field day this series with Jalen Brunson guarding him. Because Jalen Brunson has to guard somebody. He's got to guard somebody. Tyrese Maxey is never going to have as quiet of a night as he had in game one at any other point in this series. He is never going to have as quiet of a game moving throughout this series. He's just not. We're not going to see that output again from him. We're just not. Tyrese Maxey 1,000%. Like, Jalen Brunson may have won game one, but Tyrese Maxey is going to consistently outplay Jalen Brunson throughout the rest of this series. One, because he does most things better than Jalen Brunson already. He is on par scoring wise with Jalen Brunson, but he is a better natural playmaker and facilitator than Jalen Brunson, and he is 1,000% a better defender than Jalen Brunson. Now, Jalen Brunson, in terms of playmaking, obviously has gotten better this year in a Mike Brown system. That's what Mike Brown is known for, maximizing offensive creativity, maximizing ball movement, getting more people the ball, maximizing talent. But Tyrese Maxey, it's natural to him. Like, he didn't need a Mike Brown to come in and teach Maxey how to be a proper facilitator and how to play true point. Tyrese Maxey does almost everything better than Jalen Brunson, which is why I know Tyrese Maxey is for sure going to outplay Jalen Brunson in this series on a consistent basis, night in, night out. 1,000%. Because Jalen Brunson, he can give you 45, but he is going to be a hole on defense. He is going to get exposed on defense, and he's got to guard somebody. And it's a whole lot of somebodies in Philly that can score off the dribble, that can create their own shots. Maxey, VJ, Quentin Grimes, PG, even Kelly Oubre at times. Like, there's a lot of guys that can score off the dribble and create their own shots. Jalen Brunson, he can't just not guard anybody. So he's going to get exposed playing defense. Tyrese Maxey can give you games where he puts up 40 to 45. He'll mostly hang around that 30 to 35 range, but he'll also play deep. He'll also play much better defense than Brunson. He'll have Tyrese Maxey has a way better chance of stifling Jalen Brunson, stifling Mikal Bridges, stifling Deuce McBride, stifling Jordan Clarkson than Jalen Brunson has a chance of doing anything to contest Maxey, VJ, Quentin Grimes, or PG. So, like, 1000% Tyrese Maxey is going to consistently outplay Jalen Brunson in the series on a night in, night out basis. But honestly, looking at Maxey versus Brunson, I'm taking Tyrese Maxey. Like, I'm being for real. If I'm looking at Jalen Brunson and Tyrese Maxey, who would I rather have in a playoff series, especially this playoff series? I'm taking Tyrese Maxey. I'm taking Tyrese Maxey. Because like I said, Brunson, yes, can give you 40 to 45. He's a scoring machine. But Maxey will give you 35 and play defense. 35 and play defense. Do a better job of facilitating, of running the floor. Like, I would definitely prefer a guy like Maxey, especially in this series, than a guy like Jalen Brunson. Because Maxey is a better overall player than Brunson, in my opinion. He's a better overall player. He's an on-par scorer in comparison to Brunson. He is a better defender than Brunson. He's a better facilitator than Brunson. And he's just more of an athlete than Brunson. He's more of an athlete, which means he can do more on the court than Brunson. He can do more on the court. Like, honestly, you can win a championship with Tyrese Maxey as your number one option. You can't win a championship or go to a finals with Jalen Brunson as your number one option because of how much of a liability he is on defense. Your number one option, unless they are Stephen Curry or Luka Doncic, your number one option cannot be a liability on defense. Cannot be a liability on defense. But Jalen Brunson is not Steph or Luka. Jalen Brunson does not have the shooting ability that is so polarizing it can make up for anything else on the court like Stephen Curry. Jalen Brunson is not a 6'5", 6'6" point guard that can not only shoot off the dribble from the perimeter, but can also create in the post. Not only create in the post for himself and create on the floor for himself off the dribble, but he can actively create shots for other guys. Like, Luka is one of the best facilitators in the NBA right now. And Luka has been a better defender than Jalen Brunson this season, being top 10 in steals. He is actively improving his defensive capabilities, actively playing those passing lanes aggressively. Like, Jalen Brunson, while he is a scorer, he's not Stephen Curry or Luka, guys who aren't necessarily known for their defense. So Jalen Brunson cannot be your number one option on a championship team, but Tyrese Maxey can because of everything that he brings as a player, as a guard. I know we still need to see it. We haven't seen it in Tyrese Maxey yet, but based on his play style, Tyrese Maxey is more likely to be a number one option on a finals team than Jalen Brunson is. 1000%. So I'm taking Tyrese Maxey over Jalen Brunson any day of the week. Like, honestly, looking at this series, I saw this on Twitter. If you were to rank your top 5 players in this Sixers-Knicks series, my ranking, I'm taking Joel Embiid number 1 for sure. If you're taking anyone before Joel Embiid in this series, you may need to be medicated. Like, you may need to be medicated. Joel Embiid is by far the best player in this series. Number 2, I'm taking Tyrese Maxey. Number 3, I'm taking Jalen Brunson. Number 4, I'll take OG Anunoby. Number 5, I'm taking Paul George right now, but honestly, I wouldn't be mad if you said VJ Edgecombe. Right now, I'm taking Paul George just because he's been more consistent than VJ Edgecombe throughout the entire playoffs. VJ has had his spurts, but PG has been more consistent. But overall, that's my 5. Joel at 1, Tyrese at 2, Jalen Brunson at 3, OG at 4, PG at 5. PG, in my opinion, has been more consistent than VJ, but wouldn't be surprised if VJ looks like the better player in this series than PG. I'm taking OG at 4 because OG honestly has had one of the most impressive, like, 4-game stretches in the playoffs of arguably almost any player in the postseason right now. Number 3, I'm taking Maxey over Brunson because while Brunson is a dominant scorer, he's a liability on defense. Maxey provides more to my overall team, not just scoring, but also someone who can play defense, hold his own on defense, and is arguably a better facilitator than Jalen Brunson. So that's why I'm 5. I'm taking Embiid at 1, Maxey at 2, Brunson at 3, OG at 4, and PG right now at 5. PG right now at 5. But speaking of PG, Paul George was definitely the best player on the Sixers team in game 1. And that's kind of the problem. That's kind of the problem. Like, Paul George, hats off to him. Super glad we have someone of his caliber that can provide what he provided offensively, especially when guys are off, when Tyrese Maxey is off, a night where VJ Edgecombe is off, a night where Joel Embiid just can't find his spots, can't really create offensively. I am thankful we have a guy like Paul George, but Paul George cannot be our best player moving forward in this series and us expect to win. Sixers can't expect to win with Paul George being their best player statistically in this series. They just can't. Like, Tyrese Maxey obviously has to play better than Paul George. Joel Embiid has to play better than Paul George. Honestly, VJ Edgecombe really needs to play better than Paul George. Like, we can live with Paul George being the third option, obviously, with how he's been playing, especially in the especially this against the Celtics. We can live with that, but honestly, we really need to see VJ play better than Paul George as well. So seeing Paul George ball out is great. Super glad that we have him in this arsenal, but the Sixers cannot win this series if Paul George is playing the best on this team. We just can't. I don't expect to see that going forward, but if that is going to be the pattern, the Sixers will lose this series. But honestly, looking at this coaching matchup, Mike Brown versus Nick Nurse, I'm honestly more worried about Mike Brown outcoaching Nick Nurse than I am about the Knicks team outplaying the Sixers team as a whole. Just like execution, guys on the floor, talent for talent. I'm more worried about Mike Brown outcoaching Nick Nurse than I am about the Knicks necessarily outplaying the Sixers on the floor the way they did in game 1. Like, Nick Nurse getting outcoached by Mike Brown is way more likely than the Knicks players, than Jalen Brunson and the crew consistently outplaying Tyrese Maxey and the crew. That's way more likely. Like, when you look at a guy like Mike Brown, we are looking at a guy who knows how to maximize the talent that he has on the floor. Something that Nick Nurse hasn't really shown to do on a consistent basis. You look at Mike Brown, we're talking about a 2-time coach of the year. We're talking about a guy who has been to the finals before. A guy who has won assistant coach of the year. A guy who has consistently shown the ability to maximize the talent on his rosters, most recently with the Kings in 2022 and 2023. The Kings went from being a bottom feeder franchise to being the best ranked offense in 2023. Best ranked offense. They were the best ranked team in terms of passes per possession, which means the rock was moving around, everybody was involved. Like, the Kings, Mike Brown maximized the talent that was on the Kings roster. That's a guy 1000% that is capable of outcoaching Nick Nurse in this playoff series. He's definitely capable. Like, I am 1000% more worried about Mike Brown outcoaching Nick Nurse than I am necessarily about the Knicks players outplaying the Sixers players. Like Mike Brown outcoaching Nick Nurse is way more likely. But that's all we got for today's edition of No Shame with Shane. I will have more reactions throughout the rest of this series, but that's all we got for tonight. We will stay tuned for game 2 on Wednesday. But that's all we got for today's edition of No Shame with Shane. If you haven't already, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to all of our social media platforms, and I'll be back later on with more shameless takes.